Hey. Welcome to the KNWLDG podcast. I'm one part of your host and crew, Knowledge, and to my left, who do I have?
Miss EP in the building.
Hey, you're back. You've been on a little hiatus doing super mommy duties, right?
I have been. It's great to be back.
I'm so happy that you're here because we need a female perspective on today's show. And I'm so glad you're here. And I got a special guest on the phone, too. Tell me who we got on the phone.
Yo, man, this is B Wolf, Brandon Wolf. How y'all doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good, brother. Blessed. I'm so happy to have you here, man. I was just telling Miss EP, man, that I officially think that you're the smartest man in the southeastern United States, man. For real, for real.
You flatter me, bro.
So we got a pretty decent show for y'all today, man. We got a lot to talk about. Oh, shout out to Natty. He's not here right now. You know, he's getting to the money right now. So we gonna go on and move this show on. But we got a lot to talk about, man, because most of what we're talking about today kind of ties into what we talked about last week. But, you know, it's kind of independent because of some new information that came out today. But it's still dealing with a lot of what we face as black men and dealing with, you know, law enforcement and, you know, firearms and things of that nature. So it's kind of all in the same vein. This is kind of the national conversation right now. So this is what we're going to jump into. The first thing we're going to jump into, though, you know, this is our section we call WTF, White Tomfoolery and Foolishness. And this first one is that, you know, by all accounts, when we looked at the things that were going on in Austin, Texas, because it was a really big deal. You know, you got people who were really being targeted, you know, based on the demographics of the people who were victims, based on their race, possibly their race and socioeconomic status, and things of that nature. And now the FBI, the police, whoever makes this determination, isn't calling this bomber a terrorist because it wasn't politically motivated. Now, here's my issue with that. Because racism and politics in America have gone hand in hand for generations. I mean, from our hometown, you know, my hometown, you know, and Wolf, you from down the way too. You know, you right next door in Bessemer. You know, Hugo L. Black. He was a Supreme Court justice, I think, and his name is on the federal court building in Birmingham, Alabama, and he was a Ku Klux Klansman. That was confirmed. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Supreme Court is, you know, basically appointed by the president. And I mean, if my civics class has failed me, let me know. But the Supreme Court is appointed by the president and confirmed by Congress. And then we watched a presidential candidate make it to the White House based on his own certain brand of not only nationalism, but it was, you know, laced in racism. So I tend to believe that racism is also a political issue. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the Civil Rights Act. We wouldn't have Brown versus Board of Education, which the principal player in that passed away today, God rest her soul. We wouldn't have these things if it wasn't for politics. So to say that this wasn't an act of terrorism because he wasn't a Republican or a Democrat or anything like that, I mean, that's BS to me. You know, what you got to say about that, Wolf?
I mean, truth be told, man, if you look at the history, you don't really see white terrorists. Like, for instance, if you notice, just like within this last year, we will not label a white male a terrorist, or anybody white a terrorist for that matter. It's either they're sympathized with it, they had a troubled childhood, the system somehow failed them, they grew up, I mean, or
they're tragic figures.
Yeah, they're a tragic figure. They were abused in some way, or even to some extent, they'll be like, you know, they'll find other sympathizers that say, oh, he was a really nice guy, to completely separate, to make this look like it was just an isolated incident rather than just being we call it exactly what it is. This is racism. This is white privilege. This is, you know, the funny thing that you mentioned about Trump. I had this fleeting thought today. I said, you know what? Trump is like a white Tupac for white people. Like, you know how we love Pac, who just said whatever the fuck he wanted to say. You know, that's what Trump did. Like, Trump literally said whatever he wanted to say. He was unapologetic, white privilege, whiteness at its peak.
Damn.
and love it.
Well, somebody else said today, I saw this on Facebook today, somebody said that Trump is more like the white Suge Knight.
Damn.
I mean,
if you think about it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you really look at it, and then you think about this, think about our history. Like our quote unquote American heroes were all white terrorists. If you really look at it,
right?
You know,
the revolutionaries were terrorists.
We sanitized them, but we'll call them patriots. So that racism is laced within patriotism. Like, who's America? It's not our America; it's their America. And even you look at stuff like when I saw the Austin bombing and I was reading up on it, the first thing that jarred my memory was Black Wall Street. Basically,
right, the one in Oklahoma and the one in Durham. A lot of people don't realize it was a Black Wall Street in Durham as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And they were both taken out by white people. It always bothers me. People like, why don't y'all stop making excuses and pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Well, every time we try to do something, there's some white terrorist that comes along and destroys it. Like, you got the MOVE bombing in Chicago, Black Wall Street. I mean, black men being used as literal scientific test subjects in the Tuskegee experiments. I mean, I say this all the time, and I've said this on this show, Brandon. Like, we wake up in the morning. There's not a black person on the planet that wakes up in the morning and says, Lord, I hope I face some racism today. It's inflicted upon us without us having to do anything. And that's the reality of things that go on in this country. Like, we're not going out here looking for this stuff. And like I said, I took a quote from somebody else. People always ask, well, why are you always playing the race card? Well, why is it even in the deck? You answer me that, and I'll answer your question. And that's what I tell people all the time. But this
race is just a proxy, though. Race is a proxy because it's really all about power. Easiest way to identify who should have power, who shouldn't, is the most simplistic way. We look at skin color. And these outlashes, these outbursts, is nothing more but a reminder of a white society telling black people and just people of color to stay in your place, to get right back to where we would like to have you. If you just take it beyond that, you had the little kid from, I think he was from India. He's Indian origin. He built the clock.
Right. And what was it, Ahmad? His name was Ahmad?
Yeah. And he actually, I thought about this because they actually just concluded his case. They threw his case out. So there was no prejudice whatsoever. It was not racist.
But if his name had been Tyler, do you think the response would have been the same? Heck no.
Oh, no. He would have been praised for his geniuses.
Right. And so I don't get it. I get it. Trust me. I fully, completely, 100% get it. What you think, Miss EP? I see something brewing over there in that wonderful brain of yours. What you think over here?
I really just don't understand how, as soon as something happens to a black person, whether it's male or female, and they truly are a victim, the first thing that we hear about is something that they've done in their past that makes them, it almost discredits them being a victim. This person may have lost their life, but we go through and expose whatever criminal history they may have had, whether or not they may have had mental issues and things of that nature to try to discredit that person.
Third grade.
Exactly. I mean, all the dirty laundry is aired out. But as soon as there's a white person that does an act that is an act of terrorism, then it's, we should be sympathetic and they had issues and they needed help and they didn't have it available. That doesn't happen with black people.
And my thing is about that. Like, black people, a lot of time, most of my black friends, I mean, Brandon, I know in your field you've experienced it. Miss EP, I know you experienced it. Because, we all went to PWIs. Number one, that's one way, that we experienced racism. I mean, there's not a black person that I know that graduated from a PWI that did not have an experience with overt prejudice or racism. Point blank, period. I experienced it on multiple levels. I know a white guy. Not, did he pledge a black fraternity? Absolutely. But I know a white guy that experienced out and out overt. It was a hate crime, in my opinion. It was an act of racial terror because they could not tell from behind that he was a white guy. And so the thing is about it, like, This is something that happens in this America. And so why is it that we're held to two different standards? You know, people are always like, if y'all would stop segregating yourselves, we don't. Like, okay, here's a conversation I had recently. All right. So Bike Week is coming up. You know, Memorial Day is Bike Week in Myrtle Beach. And the week before Memorial Day, if I'm not mistaken, is Harley Week. And so Memorial Day weekend and after tends to be Black Bike Week. And so a lot of the white bikers are like, well, isn't just calling it Black Bike Week racist? Well, no, because originally it was Atlantic Beach weekend and we couldn't celebrate, which we couldn't do that with y'all. Y'all wouldn't let us in your establishments. We couldn't party with white bikers. We couldn't do anything. Well, still keeping it like that is racist, isn't it? Why should we, as a people, have to abandon our cultural norms, our cultural phenomena, our cultural gatherings, our things, because you now allow us to come into yours? That doesn't make sense. People are like, hey, having an HBCU is racist. No, it's not. It was formed because we couldn't go to white schools. Well, now that you can go to white schools, why don't you shut HBCUs down? Why should we have to? Why do we have to abandon our stuff because you're uncomfortable with it? I never understood that, but I also don't understand why there are two different standards for how we're treated as criminals and how they're treated as criminals. Think about it. Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old child that was literally stalked, jumped on, and he defended himself from this overzealous white guy and got shot. And they made so many jokes. They blasted the picture of his dead body all over social media. They brought up the fact that he got suspended from school for this, or he was in trouble for that. Adam Lanza, this latest shooter, this latest bomber, even Dylan Roof, were all painted as sympathetic figures. And they were like, oh, he's just a lone wolf. And he's an outlier. You know, these kids, they're not like that. It's because of bullying. And then you find out Dylan Roof's dumbass sister is on Snapchat talking about she hopes all the black kids get shot for the walkout and she gets caught at school with a weapon. Oh, yeah, some freaking outlier, right? No, this is a cultural thing. This is not just like, you know, it's a cultural thing when they talk about black on black violence. This in and of itself is a cultural thing, in my opinion, that certain people are ignoring. Would that be fair to say, or am I wrong?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is that, you know, we have to just look at the roots of this, right? All of this is systemic. The system is designed to continue to perpetuate white people, white power, whiteness at the top. We were brought to this country to be nothing more but a force. I tell people time and time again, although slavery ended in this traditional sense, it still continues. That's what the prison pipeline is about.
School to prison pipeline, right.
That's why we have these huge gaps in sentences where we're targeted more, we're sentenced longer, we're forced to take plea deals. It's all about manufacturing a workforce that's equivalent to slavery, because at the end of the day, capitalism is rooted in racism. It's rooted in maintaining the power as be going back to the status quo. Like you said, this guy, and even in like the whole parking thing, this guy was given, is about as guilty as can be, and they're still trying to sympathize him. You know, the interesting thing about it is I felt that like if he was a black kid, the cops would have ran up in there and they would have just started busting.
Right, I agree.
But because of how they're training, their condition is almost, they froze when they knew it was a white kid. They're like, oh, what do we do?
Well, let's hold up on that. Let's hold up on that right quick, because we're gonna get to that close to the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to that the end of the show.
But even when you talk about, let's take this even further back. You remember the two middle school kids in Arkansas, the ones who loaded up a bunch of guns, got the van, drove to school, one hit off, camped off in the woods, and the kid ran up and pulled a fire alarm. And as kids and teachers was walking out, they was picking them off.
Yo, I remember that because I was younger then, and I remember that they made them sympathetic in the news articles.
Yep.
They talked about how one of the kids was crying and saying he wanted a pizza while he was in juvie. And I felt, and I remember as a child feeling bad for this kid.
And they literally stayed locked up until they both turned 21. And since then, they were still able to get access to weapons. They were still able to do all the stuff that they were doing before. Like, it's just...
So their records were expunged?
Oh, no. Their records stayed as is, but they still were...
But they were juvenile records.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how the system is set up. It's not for us. And the thing is, we have to stop asking... we have to really stop asking, like, why, and just start, and start building our own, and I'm not talking about, like, we have to go this whole nationalist approach, but the thing is, when you look even at just something as simple as how our identity is shaped, the color of crime, a major part is that we don't even control our own information mediums. Mm-hmm. Like, all of us, our images are filtered through white lenses.
Absolutely. I've always said that. One of the reasons that this podcast exists is to tell our story from our perspective. It's not anti-white. It's just our view. And so that's the biggest thing that I've always said about, this perspective, this platform, this podcast, and any other podcast that subsequently comes from the network that we build. We want to make sure it's from our view, because if you look at even hip hop, something that we created, like, think about it. The new movie on Netflix, Roxanne, about Roxanne Shante. Like, I love Netflix for making that, and I love Netflix for making the Get Down, but it still had to go through white gateways.
Yeah.
I had to get approval.
Yeah. And, a lot of times, think about it, man, like, we laughed at Puffy and we laughed at Damon Dash, but what were they trying to do? They were trying to get us to be the gatekeepers of our own stories sometimes. Now, did they do it in a way that we thought was acceptable all the time? No, but why is it that their way isn't acceptable? It's because we've seen white standards of respectability sometimes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got this.
No, I was just saying that there's been times where I've actually done research to try to find, educational tools, workbooks, and things of that nature to teach my child at home. Like, even our education that they are given is filtered through their approval. It's like, who determined what all needed to be learned about American history? Like, has there ever been the need to make any adjustments, to take some stuff out, to include some things, to clarify some things that in more recent years people have accepted the fact that it's not completely true, but we still follow the mold. We send our kids to school every day and they learn someone else's history.
You're right.
Yep. I mean, that's the tradition. They say, the winners write the stories. American history isn't a complete history of America. It's just really the highlight tape. And, they give us Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, but it never talks about the ugly side of how America came to prominence. They're even they're revamping some history books to say that we weren't slaves.
We were guest workers.
Yeah, we were guest workers. We just so happened to be selling in the waters. We're like, yo, I need a job, and I can't afford to pay, but I can give you a house.
Think about it, man. Black folk can't swim. Good and goddamn well. Right. We wasn't sailing. No.
I don't even see land on the other side of the water.
But I'm gonna go sailing.
But yeah, man, these are just mainstream. And this thing is, these are mainstream narratives, and we don't control it. And we have to get back to controlling our information. And
right.
Until we're able to control our information and control how it's being filtered and how we would like to represent ourselves, we're going to constantly have these issues you're going to see remnants of this in almost every facet of life. When it comes to business, Black people, I hate to say it, but we don't even trust each other in business.
We don't.
We don't do sponsored mobility like the white kids that I went to school with who dared to say, I just need you to get a degree, not a particular degree, a degree, and when you get out, I'm gonna say, this is my son. He takes over the company after me.
And the thing is, people don't realize that this is not something that's an American phenomenon. This is global. I'm gonna touch on this, and I'm gonna move on to the next topic. which kind of leads into why it is global and how we can see the global impact. Dana Guerrera, I probably messed her name up, and I feel so bad about it. I probably should learn her name, but she was General Okoye in Black Panther as part of the Dora Milaje, and she was also in The Walking Dead. I can't remember her character's name from The Walking Dead. She was the one with the sword. She was badass. Yeah. Anyway, so a guy from TMZ runs up on her and says, do Africans learn about American slavery? Because, she's originally from Africa. And she looks at him and says, the world doesn't revolve around America. And that was her reply. And that's real. Think about it. The audacity of us to think that, well, not us, because, personally, that's not a question I probably would have asked her, first of all. But the audacity of an American to run up on her, celebrating her birthday and be like, do Africans learn about American slavery? Why the hell do you even want to know that? Like, who the hell asked that? Like, that's the worst damn question I've ever heard in my life from a journalist. Like, that's trash. But her response was perfect, and I love that response. But to get to the globalism of white supremacy and how white supremacy pretty much screws people all over the globe, y'all president, he a freak. What? Somebody, I forgot the name somebody gave him, and I had to laugh at it. But this Mandarin Caesar dude, this Orange Julius Caesar, as I call him, this Cheeto dude, he a freak, bruh. Like, this Stormy Daniels interview was interesting, and we found out that the president likes to be spanked with magazines, and he has a no condom policy, I suppose. Now, here's my question. I don't know if I'm so mad at the president for wanting to smash a porn star, considering that Donald Trump's entire life has been about excess. And I'm looking at Miss EP's face, and she's got this most disgusted look on her face right now.
I just bet his skin feels like slime. Like the kind you make with glue and yeah.
But I'm not so mad at the president for wanting to smash a porn star as I am for the porn star for letting him smash Raw.
Come on, really?
Think about it. Porn stars are actually probably sexually healthier than 90% of the population, because they have to get tested like every 6 weeks to continue working.
Think about it.
Most average humans, most average Americans get tested like once a year, if that. I get tested every 3 months.
But think about the end game though. She's smart. She knew how to use her sexuality as a weapon against this guy. She knew who he was before she laid down with him.
But I don't think she knew that he was going to run for president though. Or because, think about it.
No. But by then it didn't even matter whether he was gonna run for president or not. This dude is a multi-millionaire, basically almost a billionaire. He has this show, so at any point in time, she gets down on her luck, she could pitch a story and sell a book and get right back in the game, and and get back into a certain financial stratosphere. She didn't know he was gonna run for president, but the brilliant thing about this woman, and I say this, is that she specifically let people know that she was in control of the situation the whole entire time, despite being threatened, and she did not allow her story to be part of the Me Too hashtag movement, the campaign.
She separated it. That was smart,
and that's
because it could have been dismissed if it was.
Yeah, she's playing chess with this guy. She knows how narcissistic he is. Even when you look at the whole situation with the magazine that she spanked him with, she took it from him. Because think about it, she a hustler. She was playing around with them with it, and then she realized that after she did it, his whole demeanor changed. She was like, "Oh, he's just a little boy who like to get hyped up. Okay, well, I'm gonna take that from him, and he's gonna submit to me, and he's gonna ask me about my day." And she said he didn't even talk about himself. She was in control the whole entire time, and she just basically just
see a story like this. See, this is a story we should have Get Loose on for, because Get Loose, because he would have spit some pimping in here. He would have dropped some pimping in here. She did some pimping with that one. So she really hit him with the ism for that one, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my thing, you know, and I don't like anybody that does sex work. I really don't. You know, I'm like, you know, hey, go get your money, mama. I'm not here to judge you. I don't have a heaven or hell to throw you in. I don't have a jail to drop you in. So, and I don't care. Like, how you make your money is how you make your money. You know, but at a certain point, like, it's just certain people. Like, I'm like, bruh, like, the money, like, is the money work? Like, look.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, so did she really get the cease and desist after the interview?
well, I'm looking at this page, and I'm looking at this page where it is, and there's a letter here, from the Blakely Law Group to whom I believe is her lawyer, her attorney. And yeah, basically, it looks like she did. Yeah.
But this is the question that I have. So even before he became president, with you being in such a, you know, we'll say high status or whatever, how were you out here making moves like this as reckless without having people sign disclosure? I mean, B dropped a line and said, if you're trying to hang, you're going to have to sign a non-disclosure. I mean, come on. You out here getting spanked.
Well, think about it.
With
Trump,
magazines?
and after reading Fire and Fury, Trump didn't want to be president.
I'm saying without being president.
Trump accidentally became president. Think about it. Had Trump never become president, this wouldn't even be a major story like this.
Really?
I don't think so.
It would have been part of the Me Too movement.
It may have been, but it would not have gained the traction that it's gotten now. Think about how many Me Too stories have come out that haven't gotten traction. Ashanti just dropped a Me Too story, and like the only person that gave a damn was Gary with the T on Ricky Smiley's show.
Yes.
You know, people have been dropping Me Too stories like Russell Simmons. Another allegations come out against Russell Simmons. You haven't heard a thing about it, really.
I'm kind of conflicted about the Me Too movement.
Well,
let's not go there. Let's not go there yet.
I know.
But see, to answer your question, right? I read in the interview, right, that Donald Trump knew, and he purposely did not sign the NDA. He let his lawyer do it because he figured that at some point in time, if it just so happens to get out, he can claim that he knew nothing about it, and he did not her to have kept all the receipts that she did.
You don't make a move like that unless you're not expecting to be president of the United States of America. You can move like that as a New York real estate mogul. You can't move like that as the leader of the free world.
Yeah, you're right.
And
I
so the
think
thing
you move
is,
like that when you're stupid enough to think you're untouchable.
well, here's the thing. He didn't think he was going to be the president. Like, after reading that book, I really realized that he accidentally became president. Like, he really accidentally became the leader of the free world.
Who mans is this, bruh? Like, this is embarrassing.
White people's. You asked.
This is embarrassing.
I mean, I honestly, I don't know. Like, I think that I honestly believe that Donald Trump was, and there was a British guy that said this, that every time America makes a step forward, we make an equally regressive step backwards. Donald Trump is quite literally the manifestation of, quote unquote, white America's worst fears coming home to roost. When you saw Barack Hussein Obama, and I use his middle name for a reason, people were afraid of the fact that this obviously black identifying black man had become the leader of the free world. They made up so many lies about him. He had to be beyond reproach. He had to be above the fray. He had to do everything respectable. And then they turned around, and this was the backlash. This was the white lash, so to speak. That's exactly what this was. Like, I looked at those 53% of white women that voted for Donald Trump, and I thought about everything he said that was just disrespectful to women in general. Black, white, purple, green, whatever. And I was like, how? You wouldn't dare tolerate a man, black, white, or otherwise, treating your daughter like this, and yet you're okay with this man leading the country. But that goes back to what we said earlier. White supremacy is the name of the game.
What you're seeing really is reverting back to a status quo. the thing about Trump that people love is that he said he's gonna undo Obama's legacy. It doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not, whether it was a great plan that Obama put together. His goal is to literally undo Obama's legacy and return it back to status quo. It doesn't matter. Like, people will vote against their own interests because white women know that when it comes next, like under white men, they're next up. When you talk about minorities, like for instance, affirmative action, the biggest benefactors of affirmative action is who? White women.
White women, correct.
They're going to get theirs. It's just a matter of time. Well, you know what? We'll sit this one out. We're gonna jump on board, vote right now, and we still gonna get ours in the end. And it's even bigger than like just politics. What happened to Obama? Mm-hmm. His own white counterparts in the Democratic Party, they started disassociating themselves from Obama, and the Democratic Party just literally just went down the toilet. They lost their own elections. They gave up seats. It was just a massacre. Mm. And even now, they're really not out there fighting hard for us right now. Let's be realistic. Because low key, when things return back to the good old days that make America great again, that status quo, because that's really coded language for the status quo. We want everything back to what it once were, where we were all comfortable, and we can segregate the black people from the white people, and we'll take the few that we like and we can assimilate them into our culture, but they're not fully us, and that's okay. We're gonna get enough of them that to our liking. So this is all the Trump agenda. It's all about the image. It's about the optics of him. It's about just doing what he said he's gonna do, and which is he's just gonna undo Obama. He's a political idiot, but he's a savvy businessman.
You definitely took the words out of my mouth. I was thinking, we as black people, we here make America great again, and we're up in arms. I mean, what does that mean? He's trying to put us back in slavery? No, there's a way bigger agenda.
When was America that great for us?
There's a way bigger agenda behind the slogan, make America great again. It means so much more than it's not targeting just black people. I mean, it's keep the status quos there, reconstruct the class systems, and it's not anything about slavery. It is the acceptance of the segregation and being able to say, hey, this is your role, stay in your lane. And like you said, we'll accept a few of you and let you enter in on our side and go from there. But we need to be in total control and power, and they're losing the control and power for various reasons, whether it's financial issues, political issues, whether it's race issues, and the huge jump in the difference and the change of the race percentages here in America, and the number of people that are actually mixed now, and how the race it's changing, and primarily white men are not totally in control as much as they were.
Yeah, exactly. When you've been privileged your whole life and you start talking about equality and equity, those terms are oppression to the privileged, and they don't want to see that. And another reason why, again, it goes back to how Trump wants to reset the status quo. Whenever he gets in trouble, what does he do? He attacks the Clintons. He attacks Obama. He'll throw in the Clintons, but he really is attacking Obama over and over and over again. The man has been out of office for years, and it's systematically chipping away at everything that Obama's done. And it'd be like the most random stuff, like the stuff that with
the parks. It was something like with parks or something like that, or making things that were like historical landmarks or protected lands. And I was like, dude, why? Like, it was so random.
It's a little string to try to keep white Americans on his side. He was like, if no matter how bad he does, he knows he's smart enough to know to say, listen, whenever I mess up, whenever y'all are divided on me, I'm gonna chip away at Obama stuff, and then you guys are gonna be like, okay, he's still the guy that we'll tolerate him. But that's all they're really doing. They're tolerating the guy. They're tolerating them so they can reset the whole system and move forward. He's gonna be a one-term president.
I don't know, man.
Not if the movement is there to still continue to put black people back in our place.
And the reason I don't know is because I told people, when he ran and when he made it through the primaries, I said, never underestimate the power of pissed off white people. And I hate to keep making this a racial thing. I really do. I don't like the fact that I have to keep making Donald Trump synonymous with white people. But the reality is that white people are the majority here, and the overwhelming majority of white people voted for Donald Trump and this current regime. Despite all of his embarrassments, it didn't matter that he disrespected a Gold Star family who lost one of their children in defense of this country. It didn't matter that he mocked the disabled. It didn't matter that his supporters spit in the face of Hispanic folks. It didn't matter that his supporters were caught putting their hands on black folks. It didn't matter that he said all of these negative, evil, hateful things. The reality of it is that he just wasn't Hillary. So hatred doesn't matter as long as you're not Democratic. You mean to tell me that you would rather be a racist than a Democrat? You could have just sat the fuck out. Like, that's the reality of it.
Well, you know what? I can't completely give that over to racism just yet because Hillary lost her own election.
Now, let me be perfectly honest. Hillary was probably the worst presidential candidate in the history of presidential candidates when it came to energizing voters of any base.
Listen,
I take that back.
Hillary is the 90s Knicks of the presidential.
God damn.
Ain't
you a Knicks fan?
All you gotta do is, instead of trying to do the layup, just dunk the ball, dude. Just dunk the ball.
But wait, B, ain't you a Knicks fan?
Yeah, and I'm telling you, she literally had the layup. She had the lane to herself, and she still found a way to just drop the ball. She didn't campaign in states. She didn't challenge Donald Trump head on. She just said, you know what? I'm a white woman. My sister's going to support me.
Right. So I have a question.
You saw they turned their back on Sarah Palin ass.
I have a question, though. Was Hillary off balance when she thought, hey, I still got white privilege? Like, it's just, there's a sense of entitlement.
Your white privilege as a white woman has nothing on the white privilege she had as a white man.
Well, you also got to realize that once you step over and you get affiliated with too many, black people, you're on the Democratic side, then you kind of lose some of it. I don't think she realized that.
The thing is, no. I mean, I
don't think so.
You don't think so?
She didn't even campaign. Like, really. She had no personality, and research shows that people elect their presidents based off of whether or not they feel comfortable.
How charismatic they are.
Which says a lot about our current president. Which
says a lot about our current president, our last presidential selectees in a two-party system, so to speak.
Well, true.
Like, here's the thing. So my thing, I never get mad at people when they tell me they voted for George Bush Jr. I don't. Bush too? I don't get mad at people telling me they voted for him. Because honestly, I really would like to sit down with Bush and have a beer. I would totally sit down with him. Like, I feel like he's the guy I could sit next to at the bar, have a beer with, and have a couple of laughs with. I do believe that. I really feel that way. But the thing is, I can get along with a lot of different people. Same, like Bob Dole. Like, I couldn't have got, fuck Bob Dole. I couldn't have kicked it with Bob Dole. Bob, sit your ass down somewhere. Mitt Romney, I don't blame you for voting for Mitt Romney, because Mitt Romney really was not that. Had it been anybody other than Barack Obama, Mitt Romney would have won that election, because Mitt Romney was more relatable and more personable than almost anybody except Barack Obama. And so I understand why you vote for those guys.
Here's the difference between them and Trump, right?
They weren't assholes.
No, those men that you named, they might have been assholes, but they respected the process. They will hold to their guns. They will go through the political process. Trump does not go through the political process because he's an idiot.
Hold on, let me say something though. I don't think
but hold on. But think about this. During the campaign trail, the Republicans didn't want Trump. They fell in line because they thought that he was going to win. Because what did Trump do? Trump bullied, talked trash, roasted every Republican candidate. There was no unity within the party whatsoever. He just had long bread, and he managed to tap into these poor white voters who felt betrayed and ignored, and they ran to the polls.
But that's what they respect, though.
But they took the L to win.
They put some
Yeah,
respect on his name.
they did. But see, the thing is, he does not care at all for the political process. He blew it up. And the irony is, like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna let y'all have Congress and Senate. I'm gonna let y'all have Congress. I just want to run the presidency. And that's basically what.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing. Here's my thing, and really, I don't think that. I think honestly, and people are, and I've gotten drug over the coals for even saying this. I don't think that Bush was a bad person. I think his heart was in the right place. I just don't think his head always was, considering, what my politics and experience were. People always talk about keeping it real, but your level of keeping it real is only based on your personal experiences. Like, if all you've ever been around, like, okay, let's take what was that show with Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton? I forgot what it was called.
Ooh.
Yeah. But remember when they was like, what's Walmart? Like, is it a place that sells walls?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that level of ignorance. I wasn't, I thought, did I laugh with everybody else? Absolutely. But the thing is, she was keeping it 100. She was keeping it $1 right then. Because the reality is that's her reality. I think George Bush, growing up as a child of privilege, as a guy who didn't really, who could get by on charisma and, exceptional mediocrity, because I think that that's actually a thing, exceptional mediocrity. He was able to make it to certain places, and his connections took him to the highest office in the land. I think what we saw with the Republicans is something that I've often criticized the Democratic Party for. We don't know how to, I'm not going to say we, because I haven't been a registered Democrat since 2002, but I don't think the Democratic Party, A, knows how to win, or B, knows how to wield power. I think the Democratic Party is full of cowards. I think the Democratic Party is full of people who are weak-minded and are trying to quite literally reason with people who have a terrorist mindset. I know that's a hot take, but the reality of it's the truth. Like, it's absolutely 100% the truth. Like, look at it like this. These people have held our entire country hostage over certain things, over certain very small things that we wouldn't even think of slowing down the political process for. They literally brought in a mercenary, Donald Trump, who loaned his campaign money, did not put his own money into his campaign, which shows you how much he didn't believe in it, but loaned his campaign money so that it could pay him back. And then when he won, they started doing everything they could to make every single one of their agenda points the way that things work in this country. Now, do I think that we should be a totalitarian country, an authoritarian country? Absolutely not. Do I think we should negotiate with terrorists, which is what the Republican Party essentially has become? Absolutely not either. So why are we negotiating with terrorists and they're not even negotiating with us to have a reasonable conversation? It doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
It does make sense.
Well, no. Here's the thing. There's one thing I want to say, and this is, and there, if there's one thing the movie Under Siege taught me, is this one phrase: you don't beat a junkyard dog using ASPCA rules. What you do is you take the leash off your meaner, bigger dog. Point blank. Period. That's the only way you beat these people who have a terrorist mindset. Honestly. And again, this is a hot take, and I'm probably going to get crucified for this, but I feel like the Republican Party, quite literally, is no different in their stances sometimes than the Taliban. Think about it.
I won't go that far, but what I keep saying is that we have to stop looking at the individual people in these systems and start interrogating systems for what they are. Republican, Democrat, right wing, left wing, same bird. That's what we have to remember. Like, whether it's the right wing or left wing, it's literally the same eagle. It's the same bird. It's the same system. They're meant to function in this particular fashion. Think of it like the Matrix. You got all these programs that are interacting and going back and forth, but what happens at the very end? The machines win. No matter how many uprisings you have in Zion, no matter how many ones you got, the machines win. Until you got that one who realizes what's going on and steps completely out of it and still has to give himself over to the machines and as a sacrifice because things got so chaotic and so out of whack. And that's really the nature of politics. Because really, like in the Matrix, everyone is living these fantasies, these faux realities, and that they're hooked up to the machine.
Right.
What was the purpose of that? Their brain activity was actually serves as a battery for the machine, right, to keep the machine alive, right?
Right.
We're still, the same thing has happened to us in America today. Instead of us being like that brain power and being literally attached to the machine, the battery that we're an economic battery. We're a consumer battery. They just want us to buy. We're in a housing crisis. Wages remain stagnant despite the cost of living going up. You're seeing the loss of the middle class. And what are we being told? That we need to find $1.3 trillion of consumers in the economy, because they need you to buy, because that's what keeps the machine going. And they create disparities. They create inequities in order to keep money rolling through and keep capitalism going and keep people who are in these financial institutions in charge and in power.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've done enough extremist hot takes for the night. I really did. Here's my thing. I was really trying to, and the reason I started making these hot takes, okay, I had a method to my madness, because we're gonna move on to our next topics. I was really taking these hot takes because I wanted to see the reactions from both of you guys, you, Miss EP, as well as you, Brandon. I wanted you to bring it back because I've seen a lot of extremism today. Like today, like, okay, you still down there back in the hometown, B. I saw a bit of extremism today in the city council meeting down there. And so I wanted to kind of throw some extremism out there to see how it would take. But you guys are both reasonable people. Like, you're actually two of the more reasonable people I know. And I'm trying to see what kind of effect extremism has on reasonable black folks. But clearly, it's not something that we react to.
We don't.
And so the thing is, how is it? And I did all that to get to this particular point. How is it that extremism did not take to you, Miss EP, with your educated self, and you, B Wolf, with your highly super intelligent educated self? However, it was able to take root, take hold, and mobilize millions of people all over the country to vote for an extremist to be the president of the United States.
You want to go first, or you want me to take this first?
I want Miss EP to go first.
I don't know. B can go first.
I see the wheels turning right now with Miss EP.
I'm disgusted by it all. Like the topics, they really truly bother me. I don't understand.
Let me ask you a question. You ever got spanked with a magazine?
No.
B, you ever got spanked with a magazine?
Nah.
Which I can't judge the man if he got spanked by, with a magazine, but I mean, people's sexual preferences really don't.
We're not going to kink shame here. We're not going to
kink
shame.
I can't do that. But I'm saying, like, your sexual preferences are your sexual preferences, but
because if you got pretty feet, there
up.
are some people who will jump all down that train. If you got a long neck, I know a dude that loves girls with long necks. I'm dead serious. Like, if you got a long neck, like, he really after you, like, I'd be like, so you like that giraffe looking?
not to get okay.
Let's not get off track.
Not to get off track. Not to go down a complete rabbit hole. But I think all of this stuff that comes out about Trump and his personal preferences and things like that, I think all of it is released on purpose. It's intentional. I think when I refer to the movement, the whole Make America Great Again movement, I think it is just a constant reminder that, yes, he's sloppy, he's horrible, he's narcissistic, he has low morals, all this stuff. The list goes on. But it's a reminder to us that, hey, even with all of that being said, he's still not black, which means he's still better than you. Damn. And he's president. I feel like it's just a reminder. Like, what other president? I mean, we talked about Clinton and, we talk about stuff, but let's be
honest.
But the stuff about Trump is ridiculous, though. It's like, he can act a whole ass. We lowered the standards.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about Trump, and I will say this, and I may get dragged across the coals by this, but he has somebody on his team that is brilliant, and I mean, like, cold-hearted brilliance. How they're controlling the narrative. The biggest issue, and this goes back to answering your question, is somebody did enough data digging to realize that Americans do not read. We skim.
Mm-hmm.
They realize that if we push information enough, people will believe it, no matter how ridiculous it sounds.
Well, you know who it was. You already know who it was.
Yeah, you have people quoting memes as if it's
gospel,
right?
But B, you know who it was.
Yeah, I know,
it was Steve Bannon.
Yeah,
Steve Bannon, for all of his quirkiness and weirdness, he was kind of genius with that. And that's why I encourage everybody to read the book Fire and Fury. I'm not sitting there giving plugs, but when I read that book and saw Steve Bannon's genius in getting Trump ushered into the White House, I see also how Trump felt threatened by his presence in the White House because he realized that he didn't have the power. Had it not been for Steve Bannon and the Breitbart Network and all these people who were low information voters, quite literally, Trump wouldn't be there. But the thing is, I think we're underestimating the power of American stupidity, and we're calling it American exceptionalism because it's not just a white thing, it's not just a black thing, it's not just a rich thing or a poor thing. I've even fallen victim to posting some shit and I didn't fully research it and be like, oh, okay. And the thing is, I think that between Steve Bannon and the Russian trolls who did a very effective psychological operations job, that's probably going to go down as the best PSYOPs job in the history of the military all over the globe. I guarantee you there is nobody that's done a job that good in PSYOPs.
But don't just stop at those two. Put Facebook in there too. Mark Zuckerberg is not an unintentional. He's not an unintentional accomplice in this.
I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is a Democrat or Republican. I think he's a capitalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Think about all the money he can make off of running these ads, allowing. Think about how strong Facebook filters could be, and all the information that was allowed to just come across during the election. Buzzwords, things like Facebook had it controlled at one point where Black Lives Matter was automatically deleted off of Facebook. Think about that. The power of misinformation and the power to control medium.
I mean, Brandon, you can't even tag people on Facebook right now.
Hey,
but think about the limitations to that.
They got me too. But see, here's the thing though, right? What makes me different and what probably makes EP different too is that I'm smart enough to just sit and just scrutinize. I feel like if information is true, I can scrutinize it. It's going to pass the scrutiny test. So I'm going to go look at the links. I'm going to actually read the article. I'm going to look at who it is referencing. I'm going to Google some stuff to triangulate the data. But people, they know that Americans just skim. And someone found that information out and they took full advantage of that. And I mean, they were cold with it. Hey, chat, let me tell you how bad it is. It has us in the zone where we're posting articles from 2 years ago thinking it's current. It's happening currently.
Right.
They be like, oh my God, I can't believe Trump just did that. And I was like, dude, that's from June of 2017. That was
There's one floating around now about a lady that got shot during a gun training event or something, and they're like, see, that's why we don't need guns. And it's old as crap, and people are reposting it like it currently happened and making comments.
Or how they kill off people that died 3 years ago.
Yep.
I'd be like, yeah.
Misinformation. This battle on misinformation, that thing is a monster. And whoever figured that out, that was one of the, like you said, one of the greatest operations in the history of mankind. Hands down.
Got you. So one thing about it, we just talked about a narrative and we just talked about stories getting told. So there's this guy we posted on the page, which was hilarious to me. I'm going to play his 1 minute. Okay, so just so everybody knows, I'm gonna preface it with this. This is obviously a parody. It is obviously a joke. So please don't take it seriously, but I had to play this for y'all. Hold on 1 second. And the caption on this is protecting your home from thieves. Is your house secure enough? So I'm playing it now.
Dave Rowe knows all too well how it feels to have his home broken into.
Yeah, and see, that's what the problem was. Because I heard him first. I said, hold on. I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. Because then I start to taste them. I say, and then I start to smell them. So it's like the smell, like taste like other. So I knew something was wrong. I knew something special about it. You know. So
what did you do when you heard the intruder?
I ran upstairs. I had to run, and I had to do what that little girl. What's that little girl? In the Holocaust, she had a she was Anne Hathaway, Frankie Beverly, Anne Frank. That's a hiding bitch, ain't it? I had to get up the stairs. So he had so much rhythm when he was walking upstairs. That doom, doom, doom. Bitch, I started to almost beatbox up in the closet. Oh, boom, boom, boom. But I couldn't do it yet because I couldn't die. I got court tomorrow. So I'm just a little shook up. That's all that is.
Yo, you are not going to ever in your life outdo black folk. I'm just going to tell you that now. You ain't going to never outdo black folk. Who's that girl in the Holocaust? Anne Hathaway?
Right.
Frankie
Beverly.
I'm sorry. You ain't gonna never outdo black folk. Like, we gonna come up with something. That was hilarious to me. I'm sorry. I just had to share that with y'all,
Beatbox.
man. Yo, if I'm in the house and an intruder come up the stairs and I'm able to gather the fact that he has rhythm as he comes up the stairs, I'm gonna shoot him when I see him getting to the top of the stairs. And that's why I believe in the Second Amendment. Moving on. I don't want to stay on that too long because my sister drugged me about that last episode. So moving on, there's a scenario. Speaking of being armed and being black, and I hate to kind of segue with this way, but Sacramento police, man, literally a week ago today, by the time you guys are listening to this, a week ago, they fatally shot Stephon Clark for holding the phone. Shot him 20 times in the dark. And the narrative is that, he was running and jumping and all that, and he was breaking into cars. But none of that turned out to be true. He was literally standing in his own backyard, talking on the phone, minding his business. And so he wasn't a criminal. He was a father. And he was 22, man. 22. Like, do you know how crazy that is? Brandon, at 22, what you doing?
Man, school.
Right. Miss EP, what were you doing at 22?
I was at school.
At 22, I just graduated. I was kind of still in school, yeah. I was still in school. I was down there on the plains. And I'm just like, he was 22 in the prime of his life, and he's killed. And then, I wake up this morning and I see that the police officers who shot and killed Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge won't be charged, won't face any charges. And that bothered me so bad. Because I was like, the last thing Alton Sterling heard before he was killed was, "I'll kill you, bitch," from somebody whose salary he paid as a taxpayer. Why? For selling CDs. For selling freaking CDs. For selling CDs in his neighborhood. And what makes it even worse for me, what bothers me the most about the Alton Sterling case, is how, I don't know who got to him, I don't know who said something to him, but how they got to his son and had his son up in that, I don't even know what to call it. I don't want to call it a town hall meeting, but whatever that thing was with the police officers and President Obama and all that, and had him sitting up in there talking and basically giving the All Lives Matter spiel and all that. Like, it bothered me so bad because not only can we be killed with impunity, but they take our children and indoctrinate them with this false narrative, because it just disgusted me. Like, I'm so disturbed right now by the fact that these two guys, will not face charges. And I made a point not to get emotionally invested. I spent from about 2005 to about 2014 or 15. I literally would find myself emotionally invested every time a black child, man, or woman was killed under color of authority, whether it had been by a police officer or a vigilante piece of shit human being like George Zimmerman. I found myself emotionally invested, and I realized that I had to stop doing that because it was killing me every time, the situation turned out how it did. And what got me like that, and I always tell people this, I don't know how many people have actually looked this up, but I have to say it again, 12-year-old Deontay Rawlins out of Southwest Washington, D.C., and how he was killed by 2 off-duty cops under the most suspicious circumstances ever. That's what got me really thinking about this stuff and really focusing. And I started tracking black men, women, and children who were killed in the color of authority. Reginald Doucette also comes to mind. You mean to tell me a black man is outside in his underwear and he's a threat to you? And somehow he ends up with gunshots in him? And it's crazy because I've lost some white friends because of this. But I always say that as black, I'm a parent. You're a parent, Miss EP. And, I always say that as black parents, we don't have the luxury of teaching our children how to live all the time. We have to teach our children how not to die. But the thing is, when I walk out of the house every single day, and this sounds crazy to some people, but every single day when I walk out of the house, I have to think, are my affairs in order? So I'm going to share a story with y'all. I was riding my motorcycle the other night, and Miss EP, I didn't tell you about this, but I was riding my motorcycle the other night, and I'm riding in my area, and I see police lights behind me. And I get pulled over very late at night. And so I pull my bike over in a well-lit area. And the first thing I do is take my gloves off, and I throw them on the ground. And I stand up, turn around, and face the officers and take my helmet off. I place my helmet down, and I look at them. You can see my face. You can see my hands. I'm not going anywhere. I pull my motorcycle over. And when I tell you, I was more afraid at that moment. No matter how many times I go through it, I'm afraid. I'm terribly afraid, no matter how many times that happens to me. I've been pulled over more times than I care to count. And I'm afraid every time that happens. Now, again, this is a situation where I walked away alive. But the thing is, I think about Philando Castile. How many times did Philando Castile get pulled over? More than any human being should probably be pulled over in the history of American law enforcement. And the thing is, I am literally afraid every single time it happens. You've been on the phone with me, Miss EP, when I got pulled over before.
I have.
It scares me. It scares the bejesus out of me.
But I'm convinced that we are being conditioned to be fearful.
Explain.
The same way, that black men were lynched and left to leave a message. Me being from Mississippi, that's just something that's, of course, very, very common. You walk by, you see a black man hanging. Hey, you need to learn to stay in your lane unless you'll be next. And while we've always known that there's a possibility that things can go left when you're interacting with the police officers, some of the same rules that we were taught when we were younger, they no longer apply. You can comply. You can do everything they tell you to do, and you still can end up dead. We've seen it on multiple occasions. So my thing is, I can't help but wonder, are we not being conditioned to be fearful? Like there may be a certain strength that they quote unquote feel like, you know, black people have started to gain, or, you know, a certain amount of power or confidence that we have about ourselves. And how do you strip that? You strip it by reinstilling fear. We started to feel like, hey, we have a platform. Yeah, we have equality. We fought for freedom. All this great stuff. Oh, okay, well, let me know you still need to stay in your lane. You still have a role that you need to play. The fear is there. They play the videos. We see it all the time.
I refuse to watch the video of Stephon Clark getting killed.
It's horrible.
I refuse to watch it. My heart can't take it.
I mean, but how many more videos are we? I mean, I get it. Now the media outlets are different. You see stuff on social media, whatnot. But even before then, we had the news of things being reported about something that happened, and so you had to hear about it. Well, yeah, now you get to see it.
See Emmett Till's face,
right?
Let me jump in with this, because I completely agree with you. I really do believe that we're being conditioned. You know, in the fall, I'm actually working on this program where I'm going to show the filming of LA 92 and have a panel discussion on chaos and community. Because I remember growing up, when we saw Rodney King beating on television, we were mortified. And to see the trial play out the way that we were enraged, like, rappers became like was like the voice of the movement. Like Ice Cube was like, you know, F the police. I tell him I said it. He was calling out the prosecutors. He was calling out the defendants. He was calling out the cops, the judge, the people who, you know, who sat in there in the jury. Like, and now we're being conditioned to, because I'm like, yo, if that was the boiling point for the LA riots, what has changed now when we're seeing this daily? I'm like, what is this doing to the human spirit that we see this daily and we do not respond in the way that they respond in LA? Like, we're
desensitized.
Very much so.
Get done down. And like, to go and think about this. Like, you know, I'm so glad that you brought this up. It's like, to be shot 20 times, that's an act of rage. That's not I'm disarming the suspect. I'm putting the suspect down. I'm warning. You can shoot him in the leg or whatever. You bust 20 shots at this cat.
Check this out. Hold on. Before you hold on. I gotta stop you right there, right quick. Just right quick. I want to make a point. There is no such thing as shooting to wound. So I don't want you to say shoot him in the leg or anything like that. There's no such thing as shooting to wound.
But you get what I'm saying. I'm right. Like, any other alternative option could have worked. But an act of rage, you shoot, like, that's basically lynching.
Nobody had my thing is, nobody had a flashlight.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't have seen that was a cell phone.
Yeah, those fears play out, and the thing is, we're conditioned to be dehumanized. We're conditioned to be emasculated in the face of emasculated and even somewhat subjugated in the face of authority. When they tell you comply to authority, what are you? Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. I got my papers here. Here's my stuff, sir. Like, this is, again, we're being reduced almost to childlike manners. Like, what do you tell you? Like, the thing about Trayvon Martin that really hurt me is that I literally sat and I literally lost sleep that night, because I said, okay, if I have a son, what do I tell my son about authority? What do I tell my son when somebody identifies himself as authority and we don't even know their authority? Like, if you're a suspect and someone's following you around, do I tell you to stop and you obey this man? You get down on the ground when he tell you to get down on the ground. You let that man search you. You let that man emasculate, take away your manhood and violate you as a human being with no badge just because he says he's the law?
Man, that scares me. That scares me more than you understand for other reasons, for different reasons. But
even then, in those very moments, when you're getting dehumanized, you're getting reduced to second class citizenship, I still want you to pray, because at any moment
it could be your last.
You can still be killed, even though you comply literally any and everything and your spirit is literally being taken from you. You're being reduced to practically nothing. And those exact moments, just for someone to say, you know what, I was afraid for my life. That's one thing. Well, think about this too. This is coded. You know, when I say we're conditioned, these coded messages that are sent to us that only we seem to pick up on. Justice is supposed to be about equality and equity. What happens when you go through the system and everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be? This is an open shut case, and you still don't get justice. What does that tell us? That it's not about equality. We're not as equal as we hope to be. Meritocracy is a myth. And so when you get to that point, right? Because codes is nothing but language. The system is communicating to us that, listen, we're about to set this thing back to the status quo, and I don't care how many times you march, how many times you call attention to it, how many scholarly debates that you have on it. Our focus is to reduce you back to second-class citizenship and to create a labor force that is comparable to slavery.
So I may get drugged for this one, just a little bit. 7 Seconds was released, and everybody, I know everybody's crazy. I loved it. I watched it. I mean,
we both watched
beginning to end. I was looking for, man. And we got to the end, and I was like, "Yo, she proved that he lied." Sorry if I'm ruining it for anybody, but I'm not going to go into too many details. She proved that he lied. She proved that it wasn't true. He was in the wrong, and I was like, yo, they're going to get justice for this young man.
Fuck that. Had to be true to life.
I was like, yo, it's another letdown. So then when I realized, the show was over, I was like, I feel a little hoodwinked. I feel a little bamboozled.
Run them up.
I feel run them up.
Led astray.
Yes. And the reason I do
didn't
is
land
because...
on 7 seconds landed on you?
Exactly. And the reason I feel that way is because it follows the same logic. Like, oh, you get sucked in. It gets all this hype. Yo, go watch 7 Seconds. Go watch 7 Seconds. Oh, it got, it's some black people. It's a black people show.
It normalized our suffering.
Again.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I like, don't get me wrong. I really did like 7 Seconds because it put a human face on our suffering. And hopefully that will, I say hopefully, but I'm not as hopeful as I probably want to be. Hopefully that will put a human face on it for some of our more privileged counterparts. But the thing is, the reality of it is, and I hate to say this, I don't like watching stuff like that for the same reason I don't really like watching a lot of Tyler Perry movies.
Okay, time me get the connection for me.
Let me tie it in. A lot of Tyler Perry movies, and the Tyler Perry play I don't mind because Tyler Perry plays have their roots in vaudeville and the chitlin circuit and all that. And I actually love Tyler Perry's plays, believe it or not. Well, I'm not going to say love, but I have no issue with Tyler Perry's plays, and I actually have watched them, a couple of them, and I've laughed. I have a good time with those. I enjoy that as a cultural thing, a cultural phenomenon. But the movies sometimes, given their production values and given what's put out there and the narrative that's put out there, for lack of a better phrase, I see it as celebrating or pushing a narrative of victimhood for black women. And so I've often used the term in casual, not even casual conversation, but just with talking with my more intelligent friends, I've often said it's victim porn. It's where you look at something and you revel in the fact that you can be victimized and you feel a certain kinship with that character or with that person based on that victimhood. And while we may have never lost someone in the manner of Regina King, or I can't remember the guy's name who played his father in that series, we can all kind of identify with the fact that we saw justice coming and we saw change gonna come, and change said, screw you guys, I'm going home. Like, that's kind of what happened. Oh, yeah. And so essentially we watched this waiting for the letdown, and we got emotionally invested because the writing was amazing on that. But we got emotionally invested and we got let down. So when we watch Tyler Perry movies sometimes, You know, we can, some of us can relate to some of these characters, and we see these characters and we like them. You know, the fellas who in the blue collar space be like, yeah, you know, I can relate to trying to holler at a woman and having to go above and beyond and prove that, you know, I'm not her ex or whatever. And some of the women like, yeah, I can relate to being treated like I ain't, you know, worth what I'm worth or whatever. And these, you know, I see it in this. I don't see it in the same vein of artistry because they have two different focuses. But at the same time, I see it all as this greater narrative in our overall black art that's allowed to be produced of pain packaged as authentic blackness. You take our pain and you peddle it to us as our authentic experience, as something that we should not just look at and be like, damn, that's fucked up, but something we should celebrate as, this is still a win for us because black actors are working.
Okay.
So we damn if we do it, damn we don't.
My issue with 7 seconds that it irked me from beginning to end is that it was set up to fail from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Not just the police officers and the witnesses and everything, but the black woman who's supposed to be our champion, she's a part of it. She is as incompetent as an attorney as
Whoa.
She represents.
I'm not gonna call her incompetent, bro. Like, come on, dog.
Incompetent because
she might have a drinking problem, but I'm not gonna call her incompetent.
No. But no, she had a number of costly areas that have taken advantage away.
They showed her as being unorganized.
When she was hold on, pause. When she's a drunkard, she was sexually loose. And
it wasn't that she was just sexually loose. Who was she sleeping with?
The people she was around.
Hold
on, bro.
Who's meant to combat her?
Hold on, bro.
Who gives up the witness? I mean, and you know who that reminds me of? And y'all gonna say I'm on this conspiracy theory, but I thought, and I really just sat and I thought
Chris
about
Darden.
Huh?
Chris Darden?
No. Who was the brother that represented Trayvon Martin, who represented all these high profile open shut cases that he loose?
Shit. I didn't think about that.
I didn't either.
I thought you were going to say...
Keep showing up in the system.
I thought you were going to say Chris Darden because the rumor was that Chris Darden, our frat brother, was sleeping with Marsha Clark during the OJ trial. That's where I thought you was going. Shit, I missed that completely.
I was like, because I just
here's my biggest thing.
Open shut cases, and he's losing them.
I think the key to all of these... characters in 7 seconds were that they like the characters were well written, and I can appreciate that, and every single one of them was flawed. And me being kind of a character nerd like that, like I really appreciated that. But I do like what you just said, and I did not look at it. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch 7 seconds. Right, I'm gonna have to go back and look at 7 seconds all over again just to see what you're saying, because I like the fact that all the characters were flawed, but I did not think about the fact that, you know, the prosecutor was set up to fail from the beginning. I didn't think about that. I like that. I like that direction you brought to it. But hey, guys, we've already gone over our time, you know, and I've done enough social experimenting with this episode. I wanted to kind of play a little social experiment on y'all earlier, and I appreciate y'all for unknowingly playing along. You know, if you had took the bait and went too far left, I probably would have just made this a lost episode and not posted it. I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah, but I'm telling y'all, man, for real, stay woke, because Benjamin Crump is also representing.
Hey, man, look, I'm kind of sleepy right now. All right, the whole show is named Kind of Sleepy. All right, so you can stay woke. I'm gonna be kind of sleepy. I'm a retired activist. Okay, I'm Huey from the Boondocks. I'll let you. Hey, man, but I really appreciate you jumping on the show, man. If you got any shout-outs, man, give them out now, man. I know you got some shout-outs, bro. I know you're doing some amazing... Tell everybody what you're doing, man. I know you got some amazing things coming up down there in the Ham, bro. Tell about it. I know you got a forum coming up, don't you?
You said what?
You got a forum coming up, don't you?
Oh no, we just finished the last forum of the year yesterday.
Oh, damn.
That went well. I'm working on, trying to, tackle this thing from multiple angles. So right now we're doing some stuff with small businesses, trying to, right now we got this project. We're gonna take 6 to 10 small businesses, preferably minority owned, teach them how to expand, give them coaching, mentoring on how to make their moves, help them set up their books and their accounts, everything. Literally, you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consulting for absolutely free. And if this model works, we're gonna upscale it and start contributing to a way to create more financial inclusion within the entrepreneurial ecosystem here that is in Birmingham. Some of the other things we're doing, we're getting more involved with the schools, trying to create some type of partnership, maybe even thought of bringing back a teen summit. We're giving students the voice what they're seeing and be part of that change that they wish to see. And last but not least, man, I've been really buried neck deep in trying to cure homelessness. So I just finished up my proposal, and fingers crossed, blessings up. Maybe it go forward. I can get this money, and we can start tackling this issue, man, and completely eradicate. Yeah.
Yeah, the KNWLDG podcast and the whole KNWLDG media team is behind you. From New York to Birmingham, man. You're a friend of the show, man, and you part of the team as far as I'm concerned, man. You family, so you can't get rid of me, man. Shoot, you my brother, so it is what it is. Any way we can help or get the word out, anything like that, man. We behind you 100%, man. So I'm really, really proud of you, man. You're actually one of my inspirations, man. And so I'm glad you came on the show today, man. Like for real, man. So let your people know to check us out, man. And we definitely, I'm gonna keep checking in and seeing how this goes. We can give updates to the team and to the listeners, man, because this is major. Like if you can make this happen in Birmingham, which honestly, bro, growing up there and knowing how things are there, if you can make anything happen in Birmingham, you can replicate it all over the world, man. So I'm in your corner, brother. If there's anything I can help you with, let us know, man. And the KNWLDG team is behind you, brother.
Oh, bet. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Miss EP.
Yes.
You got any shout-outs while you over there? Who you texting over there? I'm getting jealous. Who you texting over there?
Don't be jealous.
Oh, okay.
I'm not texting anyone.
Oh, okay. You got any shout-outs?
I do, actually. The Urban League of Central Carolinas, we are hosting a free branding workshop on Saturday on the 31st at Advent Co-working from 4 to 6. It's great. Come out and get some tips. How to get your branding together, whether it be personal, whether you're starting a business, whether you've already started one. It's a great way to get some additional knowledge to turn that knowledge into profit.
So let me ask you a question. If I sell dope, can I come to that?
You probably can come and turn some of this good professional, tips into your own personal street tips.
Awkward.
See, you didn't think I was going to have a comeback for that one.
Awkward. Okay.
You can always find something where you can turn, some additional knowledge into
I was
money.
totally kidding.
I know, but I was totally serious.
Yeah.
So all the D-boys, you can come on out to the branding event as well. Get your seat in the back.
Why they can't sit in the front? They ain't gonna sit in the front?
We got to think about the photos and the images.
Oh,
and stuff,
yeah, you're right. If you come,
the old grill's gonna mess up the flash.
No, it ain't.
Yes, it will.
Just wear your Easter outfit.
No, leave it at home. Definitely a casual event.
I got you. And I don't really have any shout outs this week. Shout out to y'all, man, for being here and supporting the KNWLDG brand, man. I appreciate y'all so much. And we'll catch y'all next week. Wait a minute. I do have one shout out. I had to catch myself. One shout out. Club Monster out of Birmingham. They have a video series that's going on with their rollout for their upcoming album, When God Ready. I need y'all to check out the video series. You can check out Club Monster on Facebook, KLUB Monster, MONSTA. Check them out. These boys got bars, man. Shout out to Jonelle. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to Kata. All them, man. They doing their thing, man. So it's all good. And we'll check y'all next week.
I bet.
Peace.
Peace.